This episode is brought to you by EFG Holding, a trailblazing financial institution with a universal bank in Egypt and the leading investment bank in the Middle East and North Africa. You did something very exciting and fun as a student. You became a model.
It's,
So you went to New York while you were studying in
yeah.
Boston and you signed up with an agency and you did modeling on the side. Tell me about that. That's super fun.
Yeah, well, it wasn't something that I kind of, pursued, but it kind of fell into my plate. And I thought, why not? It was give me the opportunity to go and visit New York. I love New York. New York was such a diverse, cosmopolitan place, very different than anywhere else in the US. Anna Wintour used to say, you want to see what is next year's fashion? Go to the meatpacking district and you will see what the trends are. And I love the sense of individuality that people had, that even besides fashion, just culturally, they were much more in tune with what's happening in the world. But everyone had their own take, everyone had their own perspective. And so I was lucky enough to
It's
do
very much the melting pot because every nationality is there.
absolutely very
Yeah.
cosmopolitan, very diverse. And I was lucky enough to, walk for Armani, Jill Sander, and various designers. And from there, I really became bitten by the fashion bug. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Wow.
Why am I not studying fashion? What am I doing? This is this is a world that I really love, and I have tried to find the formula all throughout my early career before I became a designer, to find the formula of how can I work in fashion, and why didn't I study it? But then I realized that, wait a minute, you don't really have to study everything that you're passionate about. But it was actually a turning point for me that made me realize that you can multitask. And you can pursue different things while you're still focusing on one thing. So graduated, wanted to stay a little bit longer and do more modeling, but the family was like, absolutely not. In a way. In a
There's
way.
only so much they'll accept, right?
Yeah, exactly. So much to accept. And it was it was a blessing in disguise that put me in a position where I had to go back and make something of myself. So I worked in marketing, I worked in advertising, I worked in banking. But when I worked in banking, I realized, okay, this is not for me. I was never really part of the corporate environment. I could never really fit into the corporate world. It was not my I didn't feel it was my calling, and it didn't match my ethos of wanting to create, wanting to become an individual. So I went to London and went to Savile Row, and then a light bulb came out. While I was going to London, I realized that, wait a minute, why don't we bring a bit of Savile Row into tradition? So I saw that the Taube market was still kind of limited when it comes to execution, when it comes to quality. So I went back to Saudi. At that time, I was at the bank. At the bank, you had to wear a suit every day, or you wear a Taube. And I had to wear a Taube every day. And I'm like, I'm not about to wear the same thing every day. Like, I refused. So
Yeah.
I found some great tailors. And my mother was nice enough to let me use the house where you could get a tailor and have some machines to come in and actually make some proper bespoke Taubes. Through Google, through tutorials, through trial and error, we crafted and created really immaculately made Taubes. So I used a lot of my.
So are you self-taught?
I'm self-taught, yes.
I've seen some of the things some of the Taubes. Obviously, we're going to talk about some of the celebrities who wear your clothes, but they do look different. They don't look obviously not at all like the traditional.
Thank
And
you.
there's an edge to them. They're really funky.
Thanks
They're
a
really
lot.
cool.
I
Yeah,
wanted
yeah.
even since boarding school days, I always wanted to show that our culture and our heritage can hold its own with international. And I was lucky enough to be able to do that. So 2007, I opened my first boutique. I participated in Dubai Fashion Week, and Sheikh Majid Sabah attended my show. And at that time, he had Villa Moda, Dubai, Kuwait, and Bahrain. And from the first show, I was very lucky to have a Saudi brand, traditional brand, alongside Marni, Prada, Dolce Gabbana. Like, this is the kind of narrative that I wanted to create through my fashion, to show
And of that caliber,
that
you were in that caliber, which is what you wanted.
exactly. So, and from
Yeah.
there, the rest is history. I opened two other boutiques in Jeddah. I opened one in Riyadh. Was very lucky to have been able to dress international celebrities such as, Snoop Dogg to Christian Louboutin, and we also dressed. We were commissioned to do the polo match for Prince William as well. So, kind of really took off. I was very lucky to be able to express myself in that way. However, at that time, we always had to go to Dubai to get ourselves recognized. The ecosystem, fashion ecosystem, wasn't there. We really kind of, had to jump through hoops, and we were pretty much on our own. So I was lucky to have had the support of the family to be able to pursue my dream and continue doing my fashion shows and doing my collections.
So tell me about what came next after Toby. So did you officially close it down,
Yes.
or is it you did?
Yes. Yeah.
That must have been quite sad though for you.
It was very difficult, but what we have to realize is that since we don't have the infrastructure as a designer, when you become a designer like me, who's very emphatic, very much of a perfectionist, the end result has to be perfect, and the only way we can guarantee quality is if you have your own manufacturing, you have your own workshop, you have your own sales team, so designer friends of mine who are in New York, who are in Paris, they create the collection. They go to a workshop, they make a contract, and they create their own prototype. And from there, they're free. They don't have to worry about it. We weren't able to do that in those days. Now things are improving. Eventually, inshallah, it will get to that stage. But to ensure quality.
And when you were working, what was the situation, Hatem? How did you create your line?
I had to do everything. I had to find my own tailors. I had to create my own patterns. I had to source my own fabrics, and it was quite a process. And at the same time, when the end result was ready, for example, if PT Umo wants to buy a few pieces, I wasn't able to supply because they want 300 pieces. How am I going to come up with the 300 pieces with the same quality? I'm not going to go to any random workshop and do them. So for me, if I go back into fashion, if I can guarantee that I can get the quality of the production for 50 pieces or 300 pieces, I will go back to it. But that was always a process and an ongoing battle for me. And I felt like, you know what? I'll wait this one out. Why don't I help other people for change and see? And at the same time, it's actually very rewarding. I'm able now to create opportunities for communities. I've been doing my own content for the past 20 years, where I would do my photo shoots. I would do, and I realized I really had a passion for that. So why not do that by empowering and bridging local creatives and shedding light on them with international brands? So this is how authenticity came about,
And what area within your work is the most it takes the most attention from you? Is it the content that you're producing for publications, or is it the sort of the traditional work you do for clients?
We like to work a lot on strategy. So we work with a lot of also international brands that want to have a different strategy. So it's across the board. We offer a 360 solution in coming into the market, thinking of how to approach the market marketing wise. Think PR wise also we work with major PR companies to make sure that they have the right voice for KSA. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time, over 20 years. So remember, I started when I was 5, so it makes me 25. But
no, and not only that, you're in a unique position because, as you said, you're a bridge. You're a bridge because you obviously know your own culture very well, but you also know the West very well.
Yes,
having been educated in Europe and in the US, so you know exactly what is required by them, the level of professionalism that they expect.
Exactly.
And you're a translator left and right. So you're able to explain one side to the other. And I think that's what enables you to do this work.
Thank you. And it honestly is an area that I've always wanted to involve myself in, because changing perception and elevating the narrative, the cliches and the narratives that we have, I'm able to translate that in my work. I'm able to, not just fashion. Now I can do that through my work with my clients, with my content. So it's amazing to see how much more responsive the Western brands are, and how much more eager and trusting they are now versus before, like 3 years ago. And so sky's the limit, really.
Absolutely. Tell me a little bit about the podcast. It's called Gems of Arabia. What is it exactly?
We're trying to follow your great footsteps.
I think we're all following each other. We're all together.
You're very kind. Thank you. I really love what you're doing as well, and the substance that you are providing us.
Thank you so much.
Gems of Arabia actually started about 6 years ago. It was a column that I was writing, even when I was, designing. I always wanted to continue what I'm doing through fashion, but through writing. So
Mhm.
really highlight people who inspire me and showing how incredible people are. We did Christian Louboutin going to Saudi Arabia, Madain Saleh. So for me, it just kind of snowballed, and I realized, I really like doing this. And although I'm designing, there was just something that I did, a passion. And came COVID, and then I said, you know what, I want to start doing this. So I started opening
Mm.
started filming my first episodes, and the rest is history. It was
Mm.
nice to be able. It's one thing to create content and do videos, but it's another thing to have a deep dive with key people that
Yes.
that inspire you, where you really get to, connect with the community in a much more kind of personal way. You really get to,
And that's the beauty of podcasts, right,
yes,
Hatem? Because you can spend as long as you want talking about specific subjects. You can drill down deep, and you already know that you have people who are going to be interested in that subject. So, you're not going to appeal to everyone, but the people you appeal to, you're going to appeal to very deeply.
absolutely.
Um,
And
yeah.
across all industries. So we had collaborated with the Saudi Cup, which was an honor, where we interviewed key people from Prince Bandar Al Faisal to Princess Noor Al Faisal, Dina Abdulaziz, who's our fashion icon. I'm sure she's like literally the first Arab woman to go to the Met Galas, Vanity Fair, international parties, like a global ambassador for fashion. We look up to her, and she has also been a force in fashion.
Hmm.
For example,
Hmm.
Prabal Gurug, who is a designer for Claire Danes and Michelle Obama,
Yes.
told me
Yes.
that
Very well known.
he
Yeah.
stocked his first collection at DNA Boutique in Riyadh, which is Princess Dina's boutique. So imagine, like the impact that certain people have. We have also had Farida Khalfe, who is someone who I respect tremendously. We brought her to Saudi. We had Afaf Shnifan, who's the first um, Arab supermodel. So it doesn't just stop at Saudi. It's Saudi centric, but we are inclusive of the MENA. We're inclusive to all the people who have contributed to the Arabic landscape in a positive way.
Hmm. Hmm. Interesting. I want to talk about a few more things. I want to take a slight deviation now, a little bit. I want to talk about Saudi Arabia as a country that is coming in from the cold, going into a new phase. You're in the heart of it. I was, and I've spoken about this on a couple of previous episodes. I was in Saudi, as a lot of my listeners know. I grew up in Saudi from the mid '70s to the mid '80s in Jeddah, and I went back to Jeddah a year ago, and I was lucky enough to attend the Islamic Art Biennale and visit El Ala. And I was blown away by what I saw. I saw a modern country. I saw a very proud country. I saw a country opening up to outsiders, wanting to show their traditions and show their heritage. And I wanted your take on what how has it happened, where is it going, and just your thoughts on it.
Okay. Well, I have one word, MBS. You know,
Yeah.
it is a vision that he has had. The 2030 vision is paramount and has changed all our lives.
Mm, mm,
All the
mm.
things that we dreamed of are now happening. I remember when I first started designing. Imagine if I had that infrastructure. Imagine, the possibilities and the opportunities. That, alhamdulillah, I've had the opportunities, but imagine how much more. So he's literally giving all the elements that we dreamed of on a silver platter. And it's not just about the vision, it's also about the execution and the planning. Now you have incredible, very dynamic younger generation, that is also given the opportunity to kind of showcase their creativity, their work, the sites, the gems that we have, the history that we have, discovering, from Al Ula and going back and
Yeah.
even deeper. And then also, let's not forget that we're also, we have Mecca and Medina, which are major,
Of
very
course.
important sites that articulate also the balance that we have between being still holding on to our tradition, still holding on to our roots, but also moving forward. And that's what people have to realize is that we need to also respect our values, respect our traditions. And it's only a question of people, again, looking at us as we're no longer seen as primitive. On the contrary, we're seen as more dynamic and we're seen as more progressive because we are able to hold on to our traditions, hold on to our heritage, and still move forward. I don't know why people, modernity means West. It doesn't necessarily have to
Yeah,
be that. No,
absolutely.
Western culture.
You can do the
Yeah, I
two.
can do that too. And
Absolutely.
Western culture has really kind of inspired me over the years. I've learned a lot. I'm grateful to Western culture. But now it's time to also focus on our own culture and, as I mentioned, on our identity. And I believe that this is also what Saudi Arabia is doing, tapping into what is our identity and taking it further.